I was shook by parenthood, creating spaces for you as a mom and as a parent, in addition to creating space for you as a creative, is really important. And when I was away, work as hard as I could, and then when I was home, I was like home as hard as I could. We make mistakes and we learn the lesson. I had 2 seizures.
Welcome to Baby Bump and Business, the podcast for creative moms growing a baby and a brand at the same time. I'm your host, Bee Trofort-Wilson, photographer, educator, and first-time mom to be, sharing the real unfiltered journey of pregnancy, entrepreneurship, and everything in between. Each week, I'll be joined by a fellow creative mom to talk about the beauty, the burnout, and the balance of it all. So let's get into it. Today's guest is the wonderful Kate Parker. Kate is a commercial photographer and New York Times bestselling author of 5 books, including Strong is the New Pretty. Kate, thank you so much for being on this podcast with me today.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me, and congrats again to you. I'm really excited for what you are about to experience. It's like the best thing in the world.
Yes, and I get to join you as a girl mom, so very excited about that. Now, for me, I've been a huge fan of your work, and everyone who knows women in sports knows your work because the way that you represent girls. For me, being able to see that as a tomboy growing up playing sports and being able to see how you've been able to create such a beautiful business around that. Now, I know that you say that your entire career was basically based around your daughters. How did that start?
So, I was working at an agency before I had my first daughter, and I was producing commercials. And I had her, and I was like, okay, I have my maternity leave for 3 months or whatever it was, and I was like, okay, I'm probably gonna go back. And then it I just got I was shook by parenthood, by, becoming a mom. And I was like, I had no idea what a 3-month-old, like, how much they needed, or how much, like, I was like, how not ready I was to go back, how much I wanted to stay home. And I was just very thankful for an opportunity to have a little more time with her. And so, in addition to being home with her, I needed something else too. So during that time, I just like at any new mom, I had no background in photography. I had a background in video editing and producing, but not
Wow.
photography. And I started taking pictures of my daughter, and I started just shooting and learning how to shoot and learning how to expose correctly and learning how to edit. And just slowly over time, it sort of and it really just started as like, oh, I just want to record her. And then that slowly built into shooting. I started shooting families. I started shooting weddings. I started shooting just like personal projects. I had another daughter. And it just was funny because it all spawned from me not being ready to go back to work full time. But then also realizing that I wanted something else too, besides just being home with my kids. I was like, I need an outlet, and I needed a creative outlet, and I'm very goal oriented. So I need a goal. And, photography became sort of my obsession. So I was really thankful that I found it when I did.
Beautiful. So even like just speaking about that, right? Going from having your maternity leave and having to fight to go back to work and knowing that is a struggle when you are a first time mom. And then trying to figure out what that balance looks like of being a working mom and still being able to come home and show up at home. How were you able to find some balance between that wow and then use that creative outlet as a way to help create that balance?
I mean, it was so hard when my kids were younger, and my kids are older now. So it's a lot easier because one is in college and one is a junior in high school, and they need me in different ways now. But when commercial photography takes you away, like I'm traveling for a week or um whatever. It's when you're working a commercial job, they kind of own you. It's all encompassing, and you're not able to take calls as you need. You're not able to be there to pick up from school. You can't plan around it. And also they come weird and then the dates change and it's just, it's just you're sort of at the mercy of the clients. And that was really hard for me when my kids were younger. And I'm super thankful to have like the most supportive husband in the world that was always like, "You've got this. We're home. We're good. We're good. Like, do not worry." But after a while I started to create, like, I think when I first started, I was so thankful to be working and so thankful for jobs, and so worried that I was not the most accommodating, that they would go away. And as I got older and became more established, I was just like, no, I can advocate for what it like. I remember I missed one Halloween because of a job, and I was like, I was just like, I'm still heartbroken over it. And I was like, I am never doing that again. No job is worth missing. How many do you get? Like really 10 Halloweens where your kids really want to be involved. And I was just like, I think just like creating spaces for you as a mom and as a parent, in addition to creating space for you as a creative, is really important. And protecting both of those spaces is hard. And but also knowing that they're both, I don't know, they're both equal. I actually wouldn't say they're both equally important. My family is much more important, but they were both important enough to protect and to advocate for both. And knowing that one, I don't know, I just was like, you don't have to be so accommodating.
Mm.
You can also, if they want you, they'll want you and they can work around it.
Right. And
Um,
how would you say you found the strength in advocating, right? Like I know for me, especially working in sports, I didn't start telling clients I was pregnant until I started popping up to work and they're just like, "Oh, you have a belly." It's like, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm pregnant." And it's like a lot of them were like, "Well, why didn't you say anything?" And it was, we all have that fear of you just never want to be seen as someone who you now they have to over accommodate for, or they may think that you're no longer capable or willing to do the job because you're now pregnant or you're now going through this journey of motherhood.
I know, I think it's so hard because as we're, as freelance people, like you're always just like, no, I'm available, I'm ready, I'm this, I'm that. And I think it's just, uh, I think I've seen your work, you're amazing. And um if people need to shift a date or allow for you to nurse, or I remember I had um a I had a shoot a little while ago and our producer was amazing. And I remember my other producer was like, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know she's gonna have to take nursing breaks," and she didn't want to say anything until she got the job. And I was like, that is amazing. Like, I love that. Like, I was just like, I felt so terrible that it wasn't something that they felt like the mom
They
could
could share.
she could disclose. Because I'm like, no, if you have a newborn, you're nursing, like, I'm so impressed that you are, you're hustling and you're, like, I think it just makes you multitask better. It makes you value the time on either side better. But it is scary because there's always 25 people who are like, "Hey, I can do this. I can do this." But I think, like, it's again like being confident in what you bring to the table is unique, and it's only going to get better by opening up your world in this amazing way.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, for me, it's definitely, I've been surprised at the reactions and also even just the support of clients where they're like, okay, well, yeah, of course you can still do the job. Be like, is there anything you need? How can we accommodate? That's just been so helpful in knowing that that can be done. But like you said, it's like because we're freelancers, it's one of those like you don't want to miss an opportunity or anything like that. So you're always willing to say yes. You're always wanting to hustle. And especially for me going into my third trimester, I'm like, if I can still work, I'm still saying yes to the job, and not having that fear of feeling like, oh no, I have to say no to this or things like that. So that's beautiful. Now, what would you say is some advice as you started your career after, of course, after having your kids and you started getting more of the commercial jobs and getting more into that workforce? How have you been able to find the balance of still being able to balance the job that you were taking but still being able to know that I can still show up and still not have that mom guilt of working. Because oftentimes when people find out that I was pregnant, they're like, "So are you going to stop shooting?" And I'm like, "Why would I stop shooting?" I'm like, "This is my job, and I've worked hard for it." So how have you been able to do that?
Like, I kind of touched on it a little bit before, but and I don't know that I did it that well. But I mean, for the way I like just sort of like logistically manage it, I was always on the last flight out. I was always on the first flight home. I was on the red eye, and then I would be up the next morning to take to school and like, fall asleep as soon as I got back home. Um, and if I was gone longer than like 4 or 5 days, thankfully, like my husband or my mom could fly the kids out. And because it's like, you're usually at a cool place. And I'd be like, you want to come to New York? You want to go to LA? Wherever. And I would like, this is funny too. Sometimes I would be like, well, oh, because a lot of things I shoot are kid friendly. And like, I remember I had this shoot with Disney, and the last day of the shoot, they were like, does your family want to be the models? And I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that's perfect. Cause it was a whole week shoot and it was really long. And the funny thing is it was like I thought I was doing them a favor, but it was like they turned out to be like they were doing me such a favor. They were like, wait, we have to get up at 4 in the morning and then go to holding. And I was like, oh, my call time's not till 7. I'm sorry, that stinks. I've just tried to like include them as much as I could, and just try to like if I was like, do we need do I need to be there for like the wardrobe fittings? Like, just little things about like trying to cut days down, or doing things as remote, if it's all at all possible to do it remote. But I would just try to when I was away, work as hard as I could, and then when I was home, I was like home as hard as I could, like coaching soccer teams, and then also just like accepting jobs around schedules. Yeah, I have like I said, one of my daughters is in college, but one of my daughters is a junior and in high school, and I'm like, I'm not missing anything. Like, I just had a job that was like, can you work this day? And I was like, no, that's her homecoming. Can we scoot it this way? Just like trying to make sure that I don't miss anything, because I know I have 2 more years of her at home. I don't want to miss any of it.
That's beautiful. I even love what you said about, taking the red eyes and being on the last flight, and I think that's even something good to hear. Where it's like for me, know that doing a lot of traveling jobs, knowing that of course the travel jobs aren't going to stop once I have a daughter, but knowing that there's still ways that you can still make it work within your schedule, but also still be able to be present. Being able to take your kids to school and see them in the morning before they go off to school, and then catch up on your rest and things like that. So I think that's very, very beautiful. What would you say is some other systems you've been able to put in place in your business to also help allow you to be able to still show up for your daughters?
So I mean, my studio's downstairs, which is awesome. I'm in my house right now, but I have my studio downstairs. I also try to like um I would schedule times around like so I could do pick up and drop off at school. And then also it's funny, but like, people are like, what's your availability for a call? I'm like, I'm available from 9 until 3. And then like from 6 and on, because I want to be there for the after school sports stuff, or like you just like carve out windows of your availability, and you can work around them. But it's funny. It used to be a lot easier when it was calls, and now everything Zooms. Because I could be like, oh, I'll just get in the car and hop, or like be at the game and doing a call. But now you can't fake that anymore. So you have to be home, and also it is better to be like, at least a lot of my calls are creative calls, so they're basically job interviews. So it's always like you have to be on top of everything and ready and prepared, and asking questions. And so it's like a lot of I think, we're as being freelance people, it's always like making sure you're showing up in 100%. So I want to make sure that time is work time, and I'm not you're not feeling like, I think a lot of being a mom is feeling like pulled in two directions. And if you have your time carved out, that that you have your time carved out later for your kids or your daughter, then you don't feel as torn.
Beautiful, beautiful. Now, have you had any? I know you spoke about missing the Halloween. Have you had any other mom guilt where it's like, okay, I need to change this within my business structure to make sure that I'm available, or to make sure that I don't miss these moments, or to make sure that I can still show up?
Yeah, I think it's that lesson that I learned, that I like, it's like I still see those pictures pop up from when I wasn't there, and I'm like, I'm
It just
also
eats at you.
like, those pictures are not pictures I would have taken a Halloween. And it just like, it just kills me. So I'm like, you just learn the lessons. Like we make mistakes and we learn the lessons of that. That is not worth it to me. And also, like, I could have spoken up and said, hey, every art director who's on this call who doesn't have kids, that's Halloween. Do you think we can shift it? Because they also are not aware, are not thinking about it, or, whatever the thing is, it doesn't asking for what you need to do your job in a better way is not something to be embarrassed about.
Mm,
And I think this was probably like 10 years ago. And there were certain things that I used to be embarrassed about, like that, like, oh, I don't want anybody to know that this is going to affect me at all. But now I'm like, it affects me. And yeah, maybe at times it makes me less present or less available, but it makes me better. It makes me so much better. So it's like, we just have to, I don't know, it's hard to present that like authentically sometimes, when
right.
you're worried about, or you're like worried about booking a job or doing, you're like, no, I'm available every day forever. And you're like, no, I'm not actually.
And especially being a freelancer, that's our mindset where it's like whatever time, any place, yes, I'm available, I will be there. And it's like it's okay to say no, or it's okay to ask, can we actually move this to earlier or later or another day? Because like you said, most of them may have been parents, but no one's discussing like, hey, this is actually a holiday, you know? But
It's so funny when like, if you, whenever that happens, when you ask a question, you're like, this might be a stupid question, and then you get all these texts, you're like, thank God for you asked that question. Yeah, exactly.
awesome. I want to go a little bit back into when you had your first and your second child. What was that experience like in terms of like postpartum and mental health while trying to navigate while you were still at the agency, but also navigating into entrepreneurship?
So after my first daughter, just like, it sort of rocked my world a little bit. I had complications after I had her. So I had, um, postpartum eclampsia. I don't know if
Mm,
I didn't know that that was even a thing. You can have preeclampsia and I just was like totally healthy beforehand. And then I was home for a week and I was not feeling great. I was really swollen. I was having all these symptoms and I went to my doctor and they were like, you're totally fine. And I went then 2 days later, home with her. I had just fed her. It's like 6 in the morning. I put her down and then I um lie down in the bed with my husband and I had 2 seizures. Um, which it was horrible, horrible. Um, and then so after that, I would go to the hospital and like I was there for a couple days and it was got under control. Everything's okay. But I think that combination of like having a traumatic thing happen and also just like the traumatic of like my life is totally different. It was hard for me. I had a lot of anxiety every time. Like I think I had PTSD honestly after that, because every time your arm feels weird or your leg feels weird, I was worried I was going to have a seizure, and I was home with her by myself. So this is so sad. I would take her and put her in the stroller and walk around our neighborhood, because if I passed out, I wanted like people to
to
find
see.
us on the road, which is so sad. Like and so like it was a little bit of a struggle for a while, and I didn't know what was going on. I just thought I was, I just trying to go through the motions and do everything I could. But I think having just like support of I wish honestly somebody had been like, you have PTSD and this is normal. There's nothing physically wrong with you. You're just anxious. And then figuring out a way to deal with that. Rather than like I kept thinking I was like something's wrong, but that's like anxiety talking. Um but I think just growing more comfortable in the role of actually like I'm home and then filling the day with things that made me feel worthwhile and good and like a good mother and also creatively fulfilled. I think having to find those pieces, and I mean you're so many steps ahead because you have that already. And I didn't have that. I was like, okay, I'm not working. I like photography and I'm a full-time mom. So it was sort of this weird like in between where it was like trying to fill holes and then find some goals. And it took a few years. Um, but it was such a good time of growing, to like figure out, kind of get your feet on the ground about like, okay, ho okay, I'm 100% the mom here, like, because my husband and I had shared everything sort of 50-50 up to that point, and then we're like, "Okay, this is on me. Okay, because I'm feeding her all the time. Okay." It just was like I remember being like, "This isn't fair. I have to get up every time." Like, I was just like I was young, and I was just like, "Okay, this is really tough." But it was like I was just so thankful for the opportunity to have time. So and honestly, like, motherhood for me was like I still love it. It's like my girls are my favorite things in the world.
That's beautiful. And I think that's, we often always say if God decides to do earth again, he needs to let men go through this because it's just not fair everything that we have to go through. And it's not balanced.
No, yeah, it is. Yeah, like, you were saying, early pregnancy was a little tough. But yeah, I was so sick in all of them. And you just have to keep, you just got to keep working. I remember I was talking to my daughters about it and they were like, "Well, mom, like what happened? How sick were you?" And they were like, "Would you like throw up in the car?" And I was like, "All of the time. You just pull over and throw up." And they're like, "Ew." And I was like, "Yeah, it's terrible."
It's not cute. And then the man just sitting there just like, "Are you okay?" "No, I'm not okay. I still got months of this."
Yeah, no. Yeah. This isn't stopping.
It's like, "You did this to me." Oh, man, but I think that's the thing, that especially, for me going in through this process, one of the biggest challenges that I've struggled with mentally is knowing, like, your identity is about to change, right? Your identity is about to shift from being independent, from being just you, to now you're responsible for a whole new being, and it is up to you to figure out what that looks like, and then not to grow too anxious of how it's supposed to look and if you're doing it wrong and then telling yourself you're doing it wrong and then not over preparing but also trying to be prepared at the same time. That's been one of my biggest challenges this whole journey is just like trying to over prepare. My therapist is like just do what you can, like you can't control everything, but just do what you can but also still enjoy the process because it is a beautiful process to be able to birth something new and become someone new in that process.
Yeah, I think if you have kindness and appreciation for, your journey and then also that you're not perfect and that you are trying your damn best, I think that, like that goes a really long way.
Beautiful. So I want to dive a little bit more into when you started photographing your daughters, and then now you've been able to build a beautiful brand and business around that. Can you share a little bit about how that naturally you were able to use this outlet to create something totally new, even though I'm sure you didn't have the expectations of, I'm going to photograph my kids and make a whole new career out of it?
No, I was just taking I had my second daughter a few years later, and I was just, doing family stuff and weddings, and, I was just shooting every day because they were, like, I don't have a great memory, and I would, like, as they played, I would always have the camera out, and I just wanted to get better, and also, like, sort of challenged myself to do a 365 project where I shot every day, and then, like, over the years, um the 365 project, I would like winnow it down into these images. And then I started to see sort of these patterns of my girls, like me, were tomboys, and they were always like they were always messy, they were always dirty, they were always muddy, they were like emotional, they weren't always like smiling for the camera. And I loved those shots of like when they were so full of like energy and life and they didn't care what they looked like. And that I slowly started to shoot more and more for that, like as the girls got older, like them and their friends, like, playing in the mud or playing soccer or whatever the thing is that they were doing, whatever their passion was, I was always trying to capture that. And that project slowly turned into like I started calling it Strong as the New Pretty. And that project was actually, I started to see more and more, and like I did a gallery of that work here in Atlanta, and it was the first time I had ever done like a gallery show, and I was so excited. Um and then nothing sold from the gallery at all. It's all in my great room over there. Because I have like 20 really pretty framed pictures of my kids. And the gallery was like, "Do you want them back?" And I was like, I guess so." Like, it's like, I was like, if nothing sold. And then, but I took, it was like, that was a failure. Like, that was sort of an unequivocal failure that nothing sold. But then I still was like, but there's something about the message and the images that resonated with me. And I said, maybe people didn't want to put it in their homes, but I still felt like the message was important. And I had no idea like how to package it or anything like that. So I just started sending it to blogs that I followed, and nobody ran it. And also like I would send it everywhere. I sent it to CNN, the New York Times. Like they were like, who do you think you are? And then one blog ran it, and then it slowly started, like, another blog picked it up from that, and then, like, over the course of a couple weeks, it was sort of went everywhere, and, the Today Show ran it, and then CNN ran it, and, then somebody approached me from seeing it, and they were like, it was a publisher, they were like, "Would you like to do a book of this?" And I was like, "Oh my goodness, that is" like, I can't take credit for it, it was not my idea. But I was like, "Oh my gosh, that makes so much more sense." And then also taking, because at that point, it was only my girls and their friends. It was not representative of strength of little girls or anything. It was just like a personal project. And I was like, "Oh, I could have the opportunity to shoot all girls, all kinds of strength, show across, go all over the country." And that's what I ended up doing for my first book, which was Strong as the New Pretty. Um, and that came out in 2017. So, and then I've subsequently done 4 more books sort of in a very similar vein of like kids and confidence and pursuing your passions. And, it's been, like a very like, I mean, I was obviously like worked hard for it, but it's very lucky. I feel like I've fallen into a lot of opportunities, which has been amazing.
That's beautiful. Now, what do your daughters think about your career? Because oftentimes it's like we think we're cool, and then our daughters are like, yeah. How have your daughters being that your daughters are able to watch how you develop this brand, photographing and documenting them, and be able to be Kate Parker? How do they feel about watching you in this journey?
It's so funny how it like has changed over the years. As they're teenagers, they don't like, it's funny now, I cannot shoot. We were at the beach a couple weeks ago, and they let me shoot one day, and it was one evening, and all I really wanted to do was shoot the dog. And they were like, "Please put your camera away." So they really are very, and also they have approval of all pictures all the time. Like which is totally fine. But the funny thing is like, so my one daughter is now in college, and everyone here, where in Atlanta, that she's friends with knows the books. They're probably in the book if they're friends with my kids. But she went to college, and um this guy that she was like kind of dating was like, they were home for the summer, and he picks up Strong as the Pretty, and he's like, because she's on the cover, he goes, "Is this you?" And she's like, "Yeah." He goes, "This book has been on my coffee table for like 10 years." So funny because like a lot of, I don't know, a lot of girls that age, and it's funny, she doesn't talk about it. It's not like she's like got it in her room at school or anything, but like, it's funny, they just put it together and be like, oh yeah, I had that picture. I had I had your picture." And my younger daughter is just like, whatever. Like she's, "Mom, can you take some good homecoming pictures?" I'm like, "Sure. Yeah."
So they're right now they're your toughest client, you would say.
Oh my gosh, yeah. They're like a very, very difficult agency that won't release any photos ever.
But you have to I'm sure you love just being able to see that transformation of them loving being the camera, and then now it's like, "Yeah, can I see that photo first? Okay, yes, you have the approval."
I'm always like, it's funny, they need me to have a digitech with me all the time just to be like, I'm like, "No," because they were like, "Can I see it? Can I see it?" I'm like, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, "I
I'm
don't let my clients do this, and now I have to do it for you."
I know.
That's beautiful. Oh man, that's so beautiful. But this conversation has been so heartwarming. I've learned so much, and I'm so thankful to be able to hear more about your story, more about your journey. And I know that this is not just going to help me, but help some other creative moms out there. So, Kate, again, thank you so much for being so transparent, being so open, and thank you for continuing to show girls and to show young women that strong is the new pretty.
Goodness, thank you so much. And I'm sending you such a big hug, and I'm so excited for you and your daughter and your family. You are going to be an amazing mother, and I know you will navigate this next season of your life as seamlessly as you've done in the past. So I'm just wishing you nothing but the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Kate. I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Baby Bump and Business. I hope today's conversation reminded you that you're not alone in this journey and that there's so much power in building something beautiful while becoming someone new. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and share it with another mama or creative who needs the encouragement. Your support helps this community grow and lets more stories like ours be heard. To stay connected and get updates on new episodes and real talk from creative moms like you, be sure to follow us on Instagram at Baby Bump and Business. Until next time, keep creating, keep growing, and give yourself the grace that you deserve.